Welcome back to the channel, Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're going to be messing around with a little something different. Uh, I'm sure you're probably wondering what the heck am I looking at right now. And basically, just to set the scene, I've been extremely busy just getting ready for all the lockdown and everything, getting prepped up, all while still working on like my regular commissions and everything and running the store. And I do plan on keeping the store open as long as I can, but I know like Games Workshop, a lot of stuff has stopped. The supply chain has dried up. So, I know a lot of people have time and everything, so they want to get like the new models or whatever. But worst case scenario, I may have to just shut it down temporarily, and you just got to work on some of the plastic you got like piled up somewhere else. So, but that being said, I haven't really gotten to work on like fun stuff lately or personal stuff lately. I've just been basically, so busy dealing with everything else. It's really slowed me down, so I've had to give up like my own hobby time. So this is essentially what I've been able to squeeze in, and instead of being able to paint up like the whole dark uprising board, two sets of terrain and all that stuff. I just haven't had the time. I mean, I've been working on it, but there's just so much more to do still and everything. Working on that epic board, and spent so much time magnetizing it and prepping it and everything. So what we decided is we're gonna do, my brother and I, just like a small little campaign essentially, where we have like two characters, one each, and they start off like, and then it'll be sort of a combination between like Necromunda and D&D, and we'll essentially like have kind of a narrative campaign and kind of build up our guys and build up our gang, build up our bros over time, kind of like questing through the underhive like together. And the red and blue represent the Palinites and the corpse grinders, because it's actually going to be like the mixed bag. We're going to have both of them. So my brother's gonna be using his corpse grinder character, and I'm gonna be using my Palanite character, and we've got like a nice little setting. And this is going to be our first first board tile, and essentially what we're gonna do is kind of like build onto the board as we go, and we'll like revisit old areas and everything. But basically, I started off with some of the 3D prints, and man, am I really glad that I went this route now, because I was waiting forever for those things to come back in stock, and they're still not in stock, and now Games Workshop's closed down, and I'd never be able to get those things. So this is one of them that we printed, and it has like the two big damaged sections in it, and then it has like two full sections, and then I basically just kind of just spin this around here, kind of show it off a little bit. Basically just started building onto it, but I use, all the rest of it is like legitimate Games Workshop pieces. I just used, what I had to basically to get that part done. But this way we can just keep building onto it, and then adding on as we go. But this is essentially going to like lead into like the main part of the hive, and I don't want to like spoil too much of the setup, but basically like our two characters are just gonna like start off in this room, and obviously, as you can see, it's got like a little bit of a theme to it. But it'll basically just be like an unexpected like ally form between like corpse grinder bro and a Palanite bro, who are put into a situation where they got to work together to better themselves more than fighting each other. So, but anyway, I don't want to spoil it. But that way, I just have to work on this one tile, and we can kind of like build our board and build everything up as we go. And we're kind of going to be going for like a Borderlands kind of theme to it, where like you get like your loot through like crates and everything like that, and kind of build up your guy as you go, and new equipment and stats and all that stuff. And we may change some different limitations, and we may have like levels that have like insurmountable odds, where they're made to be like impossible, where it's kind of just like go as hard as you can. We'll see though. It's still all kind of in the making, but we have the basic rules down, so we're ready to like get that part started, and we can at least like start filming some kind of like battle report games, etc. So, but real quick, I do want to talk about these bad boys, because these are some other 3D prints, and they look like that weird white because they're done in the glow in the dark plastic, and they're like Tyranid spires, basically like terrain. And I just printed up like a couple of them, but we're gonna work on like a pretty much like a kill team board, essentially made like with like a Tyranid kind of theme to it. So those are pretty awesome. And like I said, it's like the glow in the dark plastic. So I may do like a cool paint job on those where like some of it pokes through and you can kind of see like the glow in the dark, or like you see how cool they look with the lights and everything. Um, but yeah, anyway, I just want to mention them real quick. But essentially, I kept these tiles so this thing can interact with like the whole board how we have it. So obviously, like the other board is like magnetized. These pieces are magnetized. This is obviously like meant to be part of this, but I did like some magnetized pieces on this board so you can essentially like mess with it. But some of the pieces are like locked in here, like mounted, as you can see, like not just like falling off there or whatever. So I basically made it so these things can almost like lock into place. So I can take it out of here now still. There's still magnetized pieces on it. I made it so like this cool little like crane thing can kind of like slide in here. And essentially like what the... Turn these off. Essentially what the idea is that I can like paint this up now and mess with it, or maybe even like use this tile later on for a different piece of the board, and it'll look like somewhat recognizable, but it's not like obvious that it's the same place we used before. So just trying to think ahead a little bit. And you know, it's still got like the magnetized bits in there and everything, so you know, we can still fully like get it in with the board. And then I left like little pieces on here so when I actually like put it in place, it kind of like locks in. So you can see I can like lift up the whole board obviously with it. And then same deal over here. These pieces are like magnetized in the same way we demonstrated like in the videos. And then that way you can basically, you know, same deal. You could take all this off here. And then this piece you don't have to magnetize. It like sits in there. But basically this is like mounted on here. And just to make that like, these things like actually are meant to like push in there and clip. And then you could like turn it and like move it around and put the magnets however you want basically. But you know, just kind of showing this off. I put like these little grate things in here, so it looked almost like it was like meant to stop stuff from coming through. And I kind of busted a couple of them out and put like little random pieces of barrels in there. And then I'm going to do like the Games Workshop technical paint over this part right here, like that slime part and everything. But you know, I essentially just wanted to make it so it would be easier to paint also. So like this piece like comes out of here, but the way the pieces are done, like the little hoses and everything, when it's sitting on here, it's meant to look like one piece. You know, you can't tell now that that comes out of there because you essentially have like overlapping bits that allow it to look like it's all like combined together. So, and it's the same over here too. Here, I can pretty much just like same thing over here too. Basically take this off. Like this piece right here, I have like the hoses coming down here and everything, so you can't tell where that piece ends and the board starts. But when you pick it up, you know, you can obviously see the hose itself is what it is. So this is basically what I was getting at when I said you could kind of like strip down the board and play with it. Like you could pretty much use this tile now later on, you know, in the campaign or whatever, and spruce it up a little bit differently, and you wouldn't even know like, you know, it was that same spot. So that's the idea basically, is to just have like a couple pieces that are recognizable or whatever, but we could build onto it, and you know, it wouldn't be obvious that we were essentially like revisiting the same portion of our board. So but yeah, so we're gonna basically build that up, and then that way, like, you know, essentially while we're doing this lockdown thing, we're essentially like building a board, and then we're gonna give out all the rules and the charts and tables and everything that we developed, so you could like play along at home and kind of like do your own. And you could do it with like 2 corpse grinders or 2 palanites. You could do it 1 player, and you know, take it down difficulty a little bit, or you could do it just like how we do it too. Do it with a friend or play by yourself. So that would be pretty cool. But basically today, what I'm going to go through and do is kind of, I wanted to do some sand on everything and kind of like take it to the next level, give it a little bit more of like a rough look before I base coat it. But before I did that, I figured I might as well get a video and go ahead and film it. So, but like I said, the idea is that all these little bits can essentially, be removed from it. If you wanted to, you could go ahead and glue it down, and like it wouldn't really make a difference. But at least this way you could paint it first. Get to everything a little bit easier, especially with the magnetic bits. But even if you left like all this stuff exactly how it was, all like the main pieces and everything, and then you just made it so you could change around the pipes, like I think it would give you enough creativity that it wouldn't matter if you came back to the same level. Gonna need that one. There we go. Yeah, so that's basically the board right there. But what I want to do is go through now with the technical and kind of like trace around some of the edges, and basically add in like our I'm gonna use the Armageddon dust, and it's kind of like add in little bits of sand like around the edges and everything before I base coat it, and go ahead and paint everything, and that way I get like just one more level of like detail, one more level of like depth to the board. So essentially, like I just want to kind of leave everything where it needs to be, so I can almost like trace around it with my technical. So let's see if we can find a decent one. There we go. Yeah, so I'm using that Armageddon dust right there, and then I'm gonna use the Nurgle's rot for like the slime pool that we have right here, and that'll be pretty cool I think when it's all said and done, when we get this thing all finished. So, but yeah, I'm excited for it. Should be fun to play with. But essentially, I just want to take this stuff and like go around everything. I just want to make sure when I'm doing it that I'm not getting it all over. Like I said, where stuff's gonna be at. So I just want to kind of trace around the things I already have to go here. Just making it kind of look like where silt would like build up or whatever. And I think you could probably like use as little or as much of this as you wanted. I went through and like put some little random like weapons kind of in the like muck and everything. Make it a little grungy, old helmets, stuff like that. I wanted to make it look like basically like dudes had come in here and battled previously. And not everybody had made it out. So I just try to like basically picture where there would be like a buildup of kind of sediment, and then that's where I'm kind of adding this stuff in it. But all I'm really looking to do is just give it an extra little bit of like that texture. And I mean, also because it's like the 3D print, it's nice to have just extra little bit of texture. But I thought it was going to be a lot more like evident 3D prints, but the lines are like pretty well covered up, and I don't even have mine set to like detailed print either. Mine is basically just like set to like the basic default, like whatever, because I figure I'm really only just printing like terrain and stuff, as far as like Warhammer, so I figure mine doesn't need to be like super detailed or anything. But I mean, for what you, I was like thinking about it just today, and I mean, for what you freaking spend on one of these 3D printers, it pays for itself so quick. If you think like, Games Workshop terrain kits are like $60 a pop, and the whole printer's like 175. You're thinking, well, damn, like pretty much 3 prints and it's paid off. There we go. As you can see, though, basically just kind of going around everything. Probably not going to worry about this outside portion as much right now. I'm going to focus, I think, a little more on the inside. And you could definitely just use like, sand and glue or whatever, but I just have a ton of these technical paints and a bunch of the same ones that I just don't use that often, so out of just convenience sake. And I do like how these things look. Like they definitely give like a cool look to everything. But I mean, for like cost efficiency, like they're definitely not your best choice. But just for what you get for like the ease of simplicity is what I'm going for. I mean, it's just easy to slap this stuff on here, get a cool effect, and not have to worry about, gluing and sand and making a huge mess and everything. I can just throw this brush away when it's done. And right now I'm just adding like a little bit of like the texture to the edges, just to give it like kind of that like grungy, like sandy texture, and then some of it will like poke through when I put like the Nurgle's Rot like technical on there. And that's all I'm really going for right now, is just like an extra little bit of like texture, because I don't want it to just go from like all this rubble to just, it basically just like blends. I think it makes the environment seem like a little bit more realistic. All right. when I go around this area right here, I'm going to put that piece back in and make sure I don't go over any of like the important bits. And then there's also, I have a plan for like how I'm going to put like the crates based on like the mission parameters and everything that I kind of like created. So I want to pay attention to a couple little spots when I go to like position them, and you'll understand that better when I get to like that spot. What I'm talking about. Alright, so I just want to pay attention and make sure everything's where it needs to be right now for this part. I'm going to start. You might not be able to see this part well, but I want to start with this little guy over here. So I'm just going to kind of hold it in place and position this where I want it to be. And there's like areas where it's kind of attached that's gonna probably like, you know, almost glue it in place, but we'll be able to like bust it apart or whatever if it's an issue. But we just want to make it look like it's kind of like, you know, all part of one thing. So we're kind of looking to like blend it together so it obviously looks like it's all connected in this one little like dingy environment, you know what I mean? Deep in the Necromunda underhive. This should be pretty freaking cool when it's done though. And like I said, I have like a few of these little technical paints from like little paint sets and just various things, and I just have a bunch of them. So, you know, I almost just wanted to like use them up because I have just so many duplicates of the same one. And although Armageddon Dust might not be my number one choice normally, I think it's gonna look really cool for like what we're doing right here. So, all right, and then like I said, I wanted to put these crates in a couple specific places. That one right there. So the idea here is that I'm basically just building up a little bit of the technical paint around where the crate goes. So it has sort of like a place built into the piece of terrain. And then you'll just randomize which location you deploy like the little crate on. there's a reason. You do so, but I'm not going to. The same deal. There we go. Just going around it. We just want to make sure it's in position, but I basically put like the little pieces so it sort of like locks in place. I didn't do it like how I did the other tile I kind of showed off. I just did it with like the little bits of the pipe that were glued down. But you could do it the same way too. Or you could even do both. I thought about that. But it just didn't seem necessary. Like I said, I may end up gluing some of this stuff down here. I mean, I don't... The cool thing about, honestly, not having to buy the tiles, 3D printing them basically is these things are super cheap and you end up with like so many of them with your Necromunda sets. You could essentially like, the tiles are one of the most expensive parts of the whole set. So, if they're not even available, so you're just printing them anyway, like you're basically forced into like saving money. You really get away with like building up, a nice board for pretty cheap. There's 4 of them for $65. I mean, who knows? Whoops. I don't even want to think about how many I would have bought if they would have been available. I think I have bought, well, I know I have bought 2 sets right off the bat. Just kind of adding a little bit around in the like corners and stuff too. Give it like a little bit more of like randomness. But I mean, you can see we're definitely getting like the look we're going for out of this. This is exactly what I was basically picturing with it. So now I want to go through and essentially just do up like this middle area here, and then we're basically done with this bad boy. Well, with this step anyway. I'm really looking forward to painting this up. I've been working on the other stuff too, and I have gotten quite a bit done. But to tell you the truth, because because everything that's been going on, I've had to like, you would think for a normal person they're gonna get like a bunch more done on their hobby because they're like stuck at home, or like bored or not going to work or whatever. But for people that normally would be working, it's like I'm not to like complain or whatever, but you would be like already doing all that stuff, so it really just interferes with like my productivity because I'm very like systematic and like methodical when I do things. And obviously like this throws like a wrench in the gears of everything. And I've been spending a ridiculous amount of time just like freaking on the internet, like answering questions and trying to track down shipments, trying to figure out, is stuff coming in the mail? Am I going to have the models for commissions that I need to have like before Games Workshop closes their doors? I mean, I had to like third party a lot of stuff to like, it was worth it basically just to get a hold of it, because who knows when I'm going to be able to get it again. And if I have a certain date that I'm like, supposed to deliver the commission by, I mean, obviously most people are going to understand the situation, but still, you know what I mean? I want to live up to my obligations as best I can. Alright, this thing is looking pretty sweet now. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy back out of there now. And then I'm just going to go around this middle part here. And I'm trying to picture too, like the kind of like water or slime or whatever you want to call it, like flowing out of there. Kind of like a little pool like flowing. Oh, still can't see. There we go. Little pool like flowing out of here, like down in. So I'm gonna kind of like build up around it and make it look like a, like I said, like a little mini river. Yeah, definitely super excited to start this campaign though, and I think it'll be really cool to kind of, there's not really like a co-op like portion to like Warhammer, and I think that's where it's kind of like missing like with D&D. And we played through like Blackstone Fortress, and it was really fun. Like I definitely enjoyed it, but it is sort of like a dumbed down version of the game, like Warhammer in general. And I feel like Necromunda is sort of like the opposite of that, if that makes sense. Like Necromunda is like an overly complicated version because you have like a couple models, but each model develops and like builds up like a RPG kind of like. I mean, definitely like that's obviously the point of it. And you have like your whole gangs obviously of bros. So even maximum, what do you have, like 10 guys? 10 or 15 guys, as where an army you have like 50 dudes in a tank, or 200 in some cases. But so it's basically like the more complicated, like more complex version of that same game, of Warhammer and all that stuff. So I feel like that's gonna really give it like the cool, like D&D, like full on. We work together, build up our characters. They get to advance and like fight like through insurmountable odds. And obviously in this case, like we have the corpse grinder and the paladite working together. So that's gonna be like kind of a crazy situation. Yeah, this is definitely starting to look real cool. I'm looking forward to painting it up too. I really do love painting stuff. I've been working on some super cool stuff lately too. You guys will see soon. There's always a delay, obviously, with everything you guys see from like me editing and working on like different projects and stuff like that. So sweet. And then the second crate is gonna go. pretty much got it right here. This is how I pictured it, basically. It's cool how this came together too, because I did kind of like picture it in my head ahead of time. It's sitting where it's supposed to be. Looking good. Maybe we could add a little bit around that door coming in. I'll just scrape some of this excess back a little bit. It's like everywhere but where I want it to be. Just kind of surveying the area. I think everything looks pretty good as far as like just muddy buildup randomly around. I mean, essentially, like, accomplished stuff. That was the purpose of this, basically. Turn it into like a dirty sludge pit. I'd say we did a pretty good job. I'm sure somebody didn't wipe their feet when they were coming out of there. Yeah, buddy. I think that's it. I mean, sometimes I'll go back through and just do a little touch up here or there, but I mean, I think I basically like got everything I wanted. Maybe like a couple of spots I could touch up. bad boy. This should look awesome when it's done too. I really can't wait. Should be really fun to play this too. It's gonna be the double whammy. This really is like the beginning of our little world though. Alright. I think that's it. I mean, I could probably mess around forever, but I definitely accomplished like all of what I was looking to do. And you could probably put the crates wherever, it's not a big deal, but I had like kind of planned out where I wanted them to be. I'm just adding a little extra texture in because I do want this to look like extra just dirty and mucky and just Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think we did it. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Let this dry up, and then I'll kind of just pop off any of the pieces that kind of, get stuck with the technical paint on there. And just make sure you don't like wash off these brushes. I just throw them away after I'm done. But that actually wasn't bad. Like, these are the little sample technical ones, and I probably used like 1.5 of those. The one was like already open. So in all reality, it's probably like one regular technical paint, which is like, $6 to $8. So, to do this much muck, you're not going to do this much on a regular tile. Like, this one is supposed to be obviously like super dirty and gross. So, I mean, you definitely can do like, using this technique, you could do a couple tiles worth for, $8. So I'm definitely worth spending $4 on this tile, especially after how much money I saved, 3D printing it. Especially in this situation where I like stocked up on the spool ahead of time. Now I did get a bunch of the glow in the dark stuff just because it was the same price and I thought it was like super cool. But this not as useful for stuff like obviously this. I kind of like the gray plastic. But in all reality, I could just spray paint over the glow in the dark and it would be all the same anyway. So, but this is going to be a super cool board. I'm definitely excited. I'll probably like do a little more as I go, and I'm going to be doing a little more of like the longer videos like this where I just kind of go through, maybe don't edit it as much, but just kind of show what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Like the build and paint series, and then I may even go through and do like you'll have like the full video, and then I'll do just like a 15-minute edited version. But again, like the amount of extra time I have to put in to edit it just makes it so it's better if I can just do build and paint. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it today. Working on our custom Necromunda tile and showing off like some of the 3D printed stuff. And I'm looking forward to building this up and also developing the campaign and getting to play some games and have some fun with some of our cool models. And there we have it, guys. Warhammer Man Studios, and I'm out of here.